Good afternoon.
All right.
Hello, everybody. Everybody, so welcome today to our session, Implementing AI Document Processing at Scale with Syngenta. My name is Miguel Moya. I am Solutions Architect for AWS based in Zurich.
Thanks, Miguel. I'm Brett Williams from Syngenta. I lead enterprise application support.
So today, this session is about handling document and data of any modality, audio, video, pictures, and document, and also handling them, unstructured data, and see how we can get insight from them. And we will see how Syngenta implemented that at scale through their Wingman project, which is in the finance IT and in the tax improvement calculation.
Yeah.
So the agenda for today consists of having an insight on what is intelligent document processing. Then Brett will take us through Syngenta and AI, how you operate AI in Syngenta, and as well introducing us the Wingman project, which is applying this technique at scale for the enterprise app. But I will let Brett show us. And finally, I will finish with a focus on Amazon Bedrock data automation, which is our service we are using here to get the insight from the document. And we will call it shortly BDA. So starting about intelligent document processing, here, the context is that 80% of the data we have in our companies are mostly unstructured. It means then that it's difficult to have them ready for the downstream application or processes, and in a nice way, in a nice schema, so that our systems can understand them. So the unstructured nature of this data, like document, audio, video, but as well your document you have on SharePoint, or any presentation you will have, will make me difficult then to get insight from it. And this is where less than 20% of companies have processes in place, because most of the time it's their core competency or their core business to handle such document at scale. And indeed, intelligent document processing means the capability to extract the data from this different type of unstructured data and be capable then to feed your digital process, your digital business processes with this data. And we can think of different industries, and in all your industries, most probably you are facing the same needs. When, for example, in a warehouse management, you have a proof of delivery that is coming, and then you need to input this information into your ERP system. So how can you automate that? Or maybe in the health and life science as well, when you have to deal with many kind of documents, different kind of modality, can be meeting notes, can be patient records, can be transcribed about audio. How can you get insight as well and feed your system with this? In the fintech, imagine as well here having to apply for a loan, how the company doing the loan approval will make it at scale and give you a fast response. And also speaking about human resources processes, where we have to deal with so many documents from our employees. How can we get the insight and put that in our systems to be consistent? And we follow this pattern in intelligent document processing, but dealing with so many documents, we want to classify them, then extract the data, and then process them. Most of the time, also doing some post-processing to enrich, to normalize, to make it ready for our next step. And we will continuously learn, improve our processes, thanks to reporting, monitoring, in order to have more and more accuracy. This is indeed the way Brett's team followed here at Syngenta, and achieving even closely to, but I will let Brett talk about that, right, in a few minutes. And here today we will focus on this part of the pattern. We won't do data classification. Document classification so far, but maybe in the next steps, in the next project. But right now, it's mostly about extracting the data. And now, I hand it over to you, Brett, to tell us more about Syngenta and AI.
Thanks, Miguel.
Thank you.
All right. Now, you would have been seeing the keynote speech with Marco and known a little bit about Syngenta from that, but I'll give you a couple of slides anyway, just so you know a little bit about the company. So, okay, Syngenta, we're an ag tech company. We produce products for farmers to help them protect their crops. We also have a seeds division. We make high quality seeds for field crops, corn, soy, sunflower, and we've got a vegetables division as well. So lots of species of vegetables, Brussels sprouts, tomatoes. Living in Switzerland, you've probably tasted a Syngenta product. The portfolio is really big. We're global, operating in 90 different countries, so very big spread. There's lots of us, 30,000 people more work for Syngenta, and it's very, very much a science-based company as well. We have a lot of patents across seeds and also CP, and also now into a biologicals business as well. I like this slide. You would have seen, as with Marco before, but kind of underpinning what we do at Syngenta is a fundamental reality that we're in a world with a growing population, 8 million people in the world now, probably 10 million people by the time we get to 2050, and we're going to need 50% more food to feed them, right? And ideally 50% more food without chewing up 50% more land. Right, so being able to feed the world as a population increases, and being able to do that sustainably is what Syngenta is all about. Okay. So we're here to talk about AI. Just a couple of slides to just share with you where AI is used in Syngenta. One of the really interesting things, and one of the cool things about working at Syngenta as well, is in IT, we've got lots of people that are working on producing digital products for farmers, getting products in the hands of farmers to help them grow their crops. You would have seen from Marco before that the apps that we've got to help them diagnose disease, get some help with crop doctor chatbots and that sort of thing, and that creates a lot of space for us also to experiment and innovate and find different ways of using AI also in our back office processes as well, which is the work that I'm much closer to. So within Syngenta, I mean, I'm sure you also use AI in lots of different places, and probably a lot of the different areas that we use AI as well. We have quite a long history with it. Demand planning, forecasting. I mean, if you sell stuff, right, you have a forecasting process, probably you use machine learning. We do this. Ever since Gen AI became a thing, I think 3 years ago, very soon after that, we got an in-house LLM, which we keep refreshed. And we use it for a lot more than just being a chat bot. We embed it into a lot of our internal processes increasingly. My area is ERP, and just in the last couple of weeks, we've completed a project to have an LLM capability built into SAP to support end users and using SAP applications. So we're finding lots of ways to use these technologies. Using R&D, obviously, molecule discovery, and one of the areas which we've long used AI in, machine learning in particular, is in document processing. So we're here to talk about document processing, but 5-6 years ago, we globally insourced AP processing from a BPO, right? And we're able to do that at scale because we could automate it. The technology we use these days is relatively old technology. OCRs, basic ML, and the information we extract from the invoice is just enough to enable a three-way match in SAP, but it saved us a heap of money, and also gave us the kind of foundation of learning and how to deal with documentation at scale that we can now leverage as we've got new technologies available to us. So a bit about AI at Syngenta. Now I'll talk about Wingman. So Wingman is a project name that we've got for using AI for intelligent document processing. Strange name, it was originally Copilot, but we figured if we persisted with Copilot, we're likely to get sued by Microsoft. So we changed it to Wingman. Wingman has stuck. Right, let's cue this up. And what I want to leave you with, right, is there's one thing that your business, I think, will have in common with Syngenta, is that you process invoices. Right, this is unavoidable. Whatever you do, you're going to be processing invoices. At Syngenta, we process 1 million invoices every year, with more documents associated with invoices than that, 2.5 million a year, credit notes, all sorts of things. And the document processing capabilities that we've got now are pretty dumb, right? Just enough, as I said, to enable a three-way match. But what we've learned is that and this is the one message I want to leave with you, right, if you don't remember anything else, is if you can leverage the content of an invoice, all the things that you wouldn't normally move into SAP, you can solve a lot of business problems with that, right? And LLMs will enable us to do that and do that at scale. So what we envisaged is essentially creating a pipeline of documents that we scan and we make available in an invoice data lake. And with that pipeline of documents in an LLM, we can get much, much greater insight into the content of the invoice, and with that, solve business problems. And that's what we'll take you through now. We have a few use cases, one on indirect spend reduction, one on vendor master data accuracy, one on T&E compliance and expenses, and finally, one on reducing tax spend and improving tax compliance, and we'll do a bit of a deep dive into that. Okay. All right, so indirect tax spend. Our problem for this, and with indirect tax spend, this we've POC'd, right? So we've proven the technical capability for this, and the next step is to scale it up. But the basic problem is, I think in most businesses, 80% of what you spend your money on, you're going to have good control over. It's the 20% that you spend your money on is going to have a long, long tail of items that you buy globally in the cases of a Syngenta, and it's really hard to know what you're spending your money on. But if you're able to take the invoice, right, and run it through an LLM, and have the LLM tell you what it is that you've spent, that you've purchased, and in some way categorize that spend, then you can use that data to leverage it to look for cost reduction opportunities. One, you can actually store your products and find them in inventory much more easily. But more importantly, if you can cluster up your products by type, you can negotiate better deals and reduce cost. Right. So use case number one for us is really procurement spend reduction. The other one we've got is we're on a big master data system upgrade journey at the moment. We use SAP MDG like a lot. And one of the problems that we have when you're processing an invoice, you want some efficiency in the flow, right? And you don't want the processing of the invoice to be interrupted. One thing that's going to interrupt it for sure is if the vendor name or the vendor bank details or something on the invoice, right, that's going to direct the payment is incorrect. Then it stops, and someone in AP needs to go back and contact the vendor, send the invoice back, and correct the broken process. So if you run it through an LLM, the LLM can intelligently understand more about the vendor details on the invoice than we can with the current methods, and then we just compare that with what's in SAP MDG, right? And if it's a match, great, the invoice goes through. If it's not a match and we've got a problem, then we can intercept it before we begin processing it and get it corrected so it doesn't interrupt the flow. All right. Okay, next one. This one's kind of obvious. This one also we're in POC. This is about expenses. Okay. So in any organization, you've got people spending money and putting expense claims in, and in 99.9% of cases, I'm sure everything is compliant, but we're all humans. We make mistakes, and sometimes also we stray out of the policy guidelines. Whether or not you have a problem with this, one thing that's important is actually understand whether you have a problem or not, and then potentially do something about it. There's a couple of different ways of tackling this, and to be honest, at Syngenta, we're not quite sure which way to go. You can take an invoice. Well, the premise is you take an invoice and you run it through the LLM, and the LLM can identify the spend type and compare it to an expenses policy, right? And if it lines up with policy, then fine, you're compliant. If it doesn't line up with policy, then you've got a compliance issue. Now, you can do this inline within Concur as well, or alternatively, you can do it in batches, maybe once every 3 months, 6 months, a year. That may be enough also to identify where you have a compliance issue, send out an update to the policy, remind people to do the right thing, right? This also could be enough. We're having this debate internally, but the good thing is we've got the capability within Concur or also through Wingman using the LLM capabilities that we've got. And finally, tax. So we'll go a bit deeper on the tax use case. Just to kind of reiterate, like the fundamental of Wingman is to be able to understand what's in a document, right? And the LLM enables that, and then to compare it with something. So in the case of expenses, you're comparing it with expenses policy. In the case of tax, what we want to do is get to a point where we understand what's on the invoice and compare it to tax law. The problem we've got, and where we started with this use case, is in Argentina, that we don't have that many invoices to process in Argentina, 4,000 a year, but tax law in Argentina is kind of 4,000 a month. But tax law in Argentina is kind of complicated. It's different by state, and it's different by what you buy, right? And it's incorrect enough for us to have to check it, and we check it manually. And that takes a lot of time. You've got people doing fairly boring work, just ticking through invoices and comparing it against a policy document. And this is just a perfect case of Wingman. So with Wingman, Wingman can take a look at the invoice, understand what it is that we bought, right? Compare it against the Syngenta tax policy, and then say, well, actually, this was the tax classification for this is correct, in which case, great, it goes through. Or the tax classification for this is incorrect, in which case we make a claim or we need to pay more money, right? And that saves us an awful lot of time. Okay, so some screenshots, right? So what we do, as I said, we've got we've completed the POC for this. It works for Argentina, and we're at the position now where we just need to decide which countries to go to next and scale it up. Already we've got dashboards built in Power BI that the folks in tax and legal in Argentina are using. And what you see on this screen is essentially the data that we've got in SAP that has come in from accounts payable, right? Information that's been keyed off an invoice, and on the right-hand side, information or Wingman's view on what the tax calculation should have been, and it gives you an insight. You can see the diagrams on the left-hand side where we've got a match and where we have not got a match, right? A little bit deeper again. So here we've got again Power BI dashboard. All of the instances where we've got a partial mismatch. So there's something with this invoice that's wrong. It's been keyed with a certain tax code applied to the invoice. Wingman's compared the invoice and said, well, actually, that tax code is incorrect. There should have been something different. And that comes up in this view. And on the right-hand side, the LLM is intelligent enough also to kind of describe why it's incorrect. Right? It provides a summary.
Just to mention that the numbers are obviously
the numbers are fake
from the sandbox, right?
That's important. So if you're looking at the numbers, and trust me, they're definitely fake. All right, and to go a little bit deeper. So on the left-hand side again, you can see we've got an invoice, the detail of an invoice, information SAP. It's tax code G2, right? Wingman's taken a look at that invoice and said, well, actually, we'll compare what's been bought on the invoice with the tax policy, and actually that invoice should be tax code G5, and the tax that we've been charged should be different, right? The tax charge is incorrect, And on the right-hand side, and you'll see we've got supplier details blacked out for confidentiality, but on the right-hand side, it provides, in this case in Spanish, an explanation of why Wingman says the invoice is incorrect. Right? It goes further than that as well. As I said, like it's once with the LLM, you can take a look at any data object and compare it to a policy. In this case, it's also picked up that we've got a currency mismatch. So in SAP, we've keyed US dollars. Probably not that the invoice has US dollars, it's been keyed incorrectly, I suspect. But Wingman saw actually it's in Argentina, it should be in pesos, so it's highlighted that ARS should be the correct currency. Yeah. Okay. So where we go next with this? So what we've done is said we've got a POC for the batch processing of invoices and enabling us to sort of automate what we do manually now. Next step is what we'd like to be able to do is get that capability closer to AP, so we get a chatbot on the desktop of folks in AP, so they can run a single invoice or a batch of invoices through Wingman to see if the tax calculation is being correct before they begin processing it. Right, so solve the problem earlier. And phase three is really interesting. What we do with Wingman is we compare the invoice against Syngenta tax policy, but someone still needs to compile the Syngenta tax policy, and that's a summary of Argentina tax law. So phase three for us is we have Wingman continuously monitor Argentina tax law, and when there's a change in tax law, it proposes an update to the Syngenta tax policy, which a human will still need to validate, but once it's validated, we can update the tax policy, and that is then refreshed and available for Wingman and the invoice processing.
Thanks, Brett. So it's now my part to take you through the architecture implemented. So here, just to set the scene, we have the ERP sitting in EC2 instances here in AWS, and we have regular data table extraction to the Redshift data lake for analytics purpose. And we have as well documents which are like posted, can be invoices or any documents you have in SAP, which are like offloaded to a document archiving system, hosted on S3. And as introduced by Brett, the Wingman is a dashboard showing you on the left the SAP data, in the middle in blue, the LLM suggestions or the Wingman suggestions. And this is all stored on an Amazon OpenSearch serverless instance. So how is the data flowing? First of all, we are using the data from the data lake through glue jobs, ETL jobs, that we are like feeding the OpenSearch serverless instance. And then that will bring us like what was posted in SAP. In the second flow, we are moving the invoices in a PDF format, and we are feeding a new service which was released in December, when GA in December, Amazon Bedrock Data Automation, BDA, which taking as an input any kind of document you have, and then we'll make as an output a linearization of your document, audio, video, or any modality you are bringing to BDA. And BDA is basically a combination of OCR and LLM technique. It's a fully managed service. So as you are getting the insights here as a JSON format, we are sending that now to Amazon Bedrock, our platform for having a choice of models, different models you can use, guardrails and security. I invite you to continue your journey experience today with visiting other booths here in our expo to get more about Bedrock. But then we are using here Anthropic Claude, and we are sending this insight, so the structured form of our document, plus as well the tax information, the tax as Syngenta, just Brett explained, Syngenta collected from the tax government. And this brings in a context window to Amazon Bedrock. Amazon Bedrock is then making the suggestions, which are now populated into this blue table here in the dashboard. And the choice of the architecture made by the Syngenta team and their partner DXC was clearly to have a modular architecture. Basically, we have Amazon Bedrock Data Automation, which is a managed service where you can tune and tweak some custom and standard output, and we're going to see that in the demo. But also, with Amazon Bedrock, it's a choice of model. They did experiment with Nova, with Anthropic, and with different prompt caching technique in order to see how they could bring the cost down at the page level, but also how they could improve the accuracy and the performances, and far more other techniques. So now that brings us to Amazon Bedrock Data Automation. As I said earlier, it can take any of the modality of audio, video, document, and pictures, and will then make an extraction and bring that into a linearization or structured schema of the data so that you can use it in your downstream application or processes. And it brings accuracy because you have confidence score built within the system. For the ones who knows Amazon Textract, it runs a bit the same way. It is integrated with the full AWS service stack. And also you can build it in your business processes. We're going to see that. It's simpler development because it's fully managed. You don't have to have machine learning expertise in-house because we are doing the heavy lifting for you. And also, it will make a tailored output exactly what you need for your application. The interface is simple and intuitive if you work in the console. The orchestration is made behind the scene, and we are constantly improving the system with OCR and LLM, and far more services behind. It's built on responsible AI, meaning you have the confidence score, you have the bounding boxes, you have the visual grounding, you have the toxic detection as well. And it's integrated with Amazon Bedrock Knowledge Bases. So if you use already this service, Amazon Bedrock Knowledge Bases, for your RAG system, if you are already ingesting and doing some document pipeline into a vector store, you can here even get one step further and using BDA as a parser, so that then you will get insight not only for the text, but also for the pictures, the graph, the audio, the video. And we have more slides on this later on. And finally, there is a single interface API where you can scale all your documents. So taking a bit some distance and understanding how BDA works. So you have your input asset of the different modality. You can choose a standard or custom output. The custom output, then you will require to build some blueprint. We're going to see that in the demo. And as an output response for the standard output, you will get a linearization of your assets, so data you can use. And for the custom output, you will have exactly the fields you are expecting, following the blueprint you have decided to use. Mostly used for classification. So let's see that into actions. So let's go into a demo. So we are in the console. We can see Amazon Bedrock, and data automation, Bedrock Data Automation BDA is there. So the concept is having a project, defining a project where you can feed any of the different modality, selecting a standard output or a custom output. Here in this console, so I strongly advise you to try it on your own. But here there are like some suggestions of different use cases. As I explained before, you can enrich your data with now new content for your RAG system. You can also build some IDP, intelligent document processing pipeline, or single or multi-page document, and doing some classification, splitting, and far more activities on your document. And that requires like creating a blueprint for your specific documents, as you will be classifying them. But you can also use then for media analysis, audio, video, pictures, getting some insight, interpretation of the pictures, explanation of what we can see using computer vision, and also transcripts, summarization, scenes, summarization, and captioning. The same here for audio analysis. If you have like conference different kind of audio files, you can interpret them and hear better. Looking into the demo, we have different samples here with image, audio, video. But today we're gonna make the demo on a document. So we are selecting a bank statement and we're loading it. And now the configuration starts. So behind the scene OCR is kicking off, as well as generative AI, and we have a simple output with element blocks of the bank statement. But we're gonna activate here some HTML view, bounding boxes, and generative AI content. And we're gonna ask now to regenerate a result. So it's asking us to create a project. We name it. And now we are now again kicking off this OCR plus LLM. And just to have a look at the invoice, how it looks like. We have at the top, we have a little pictures. We have different box of text and tables. And we're going to see how does that translate once the generation is made. So first, because we have activated generative AI content, we have now a summary of the document. That can be quite handy with the key data. In the second tab, page level, you have now a linearization of your document with explanation of each blocks in HTML, Markdown, or CSV. This is again the console view. You have exactly the same, even more with the API. And then at the element level, and now focusing now on these little pictures up there, we have now a clear description of what is this logo about. It's about Capital One logo with different colors. Yeah, it's not very much readable. Sorry about that, but yeah. It's definitely an explanation of the pictures here. Plus the capturing here of different text box, as well as the table with every time the visual grounding on the left. So with a standard output, you have already a lot of information that you can use from your document and that you can feed your processes. Now I reset the demo and we go into the custom output. Let's have a look a bit at the difference. With custom output, again, we're starting the process. However, now BDA is starting to match the document with a known blueprint. So we have around 40 blueprints already predefined, and now it's going to try to find a match. And it's matching now with a bank statement blueprint. And we see now the generation is still taking place, but now we have 10 extraction. We have now 10 extraction, and we go into the blueprint to see more about what is the blueprint about. The blueprint is defined with 10 extractions that we would expect from a bank statement blueprint. So about account holder name, address. And this was predefined, and it's not editable. You can use the blueprint as it is, but you can also change it, and we're gonna see that in a few seconds. Now back to our document. The document is now generated. The extraction is made. You see that it could get 7 out of the 10 fields, and now you can visualize them in your document. So this is a very quick way to experiment with your document. You can just upload your document from your local browser or from S3 and then have a look at this. Even the table here is displayed, providing you a confidence score as well. Now we see how you can customize, because maybe you are not happy with this bank statement blueprint and you want to have more things. And now you can now edit this instruction column, which is actually a prompt which is sent to the LLM. So you can even change the prompt, or you can create more fields. And the second here is the instruction where you would make the LLM aware. And different type of object you are looking after. Okay, now this is the library of blueprint, the sample blueprint, 40 plus. We can find again here our bank statement blueprint. Okay. But the interesting part is when you create custom blueprint. For example, I was creating an invoice blueprint for travel and expenses, and I could make it exactly the way I wanted, and even like having a normalization on the dates. Because it's using LLM behind the scene, I can ask on the flow to create me a special date format in my output JSON file. But you could also, if you are in a life science like Syngenta, want to read your different experiments. And for instance, you can create a blueprint with different clinical trial and different fields you will be looking at. That would potentially help you to get insight from the large set of documents in experiment you have. Okay, so this is about the blueprint. We have created this blueprint called 77. Yes. And now it's part of our library. So I strongly encourage you to try it like I did here, not only with the sample document, but with your document in the console. You can also go to the AWS world. We have a booth about BDA, and you will learn more about that. It's great. There is also a GitHub repository I put in the last slide. Very, very handy, where you can play with Jupyter Notebook and see how you can, with your document, you can get a lot. So now, just talking a bit about RAG, we saw how BDA can capture the different modalities. But now imagine now, if you can enrich your RAG system, because you can now read in your different fact sheet, or maybe in your user guide, interpret the different graph, read the pictures, and even have like a linearization of your audio or video. Then you can definitively enrich your BDA and be more accurate when you will be querying the vector store database. The automatic modal routing is made for you. You have default responses, but you can go ahead and have more settings, optimize the settings, and everything is stored in the project, in the BDA project. And that gives you the capability to get more from your different assets type. So now from the pictures, you can have now an interpretation, a description of what is on this picture. You can have a video summary, an audio transcript. You can have as well toxic content detection. And you can play with this. Or you can simply use the standards. That will bring you a linearization of your document, audio, video, and pictures, which is very good then to feed your RAG system. And finally, to mention, this is the screen where you can, if you are already using Amazon Bedrock Knowledge Base, here you can use a new parsing method since December, where you would pass your data ingested into the knowledge base to a parser, to a BDA parser, so that you can get insight from these different modalities. That's a wrap.
Very cool.
It's today's session. Going towards the end. So let's make a quick wrap up on what we have seen today. We saw about Amazon Bedrock Data Automation, BDA, how you can use it for IDP project, for RAG extension, for multimodality insights. And we had the pleasure to have Syngenta as well to explain us about Wingman project. And I have a question for you, by the way, Brett. What's next?
Well, some things we know, right? The tax use case is really strong, so we'll ramp up tax, roll out to more countries, bring in some of the features that we talked about. Procurement as well, really good use cases in procurement, so that'll ramp up too. Interestingly, when you have this capability, more use cases come out of the woodwork, right? So last week we were asked just to, is there anything you could do with certificates of analysis? So we bring in lots of chemical products. They come with certificates analysis. They need to be analyzed, compared with things. So I'm sure that as we do more of this and people become more aware of it, yeah, we'll have more use cases.
Yeah, and you will be most probably like, you have now a pattern that can be reused in the company and even like centralized maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is just building that foundation of or that pipeline of scanned and LLM'd documents, right? Creating that data lake, the invoice lake of the raw material to do this work. So this is something that we also need to scale up.
This is cool. And we see a lot of customers following the same journey of centralizing or trying to build like some primitive, as we call them, in order to scale them up.
Yeah.
Just maybe a last question before we close. If you can share with us and with the audience, maybe your best lessons learned or a tip and advice?
Yeah, I mean, the technology is really cool. So some of the things you need to have in place there to make it work are pretty basic. Wingman's all about taking information in a document and comparing it to something else. You need to have that something else, right? So you need to have the expenses policy, you need to have the tax policy, you need to have the whatever it is that you're comparing it with, you need to have that as well. You know, the LLM can help you create that, but yeah, don't forget to have the what else available also.
Yeah, to have your grounding truth ready, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brett.
Thank you very much.
Just for the audience, if you want to continue, please start looking into the starting pack with BDA. Also, this is on the right side, the GitHub repository I was mentioning. Very cool, very well guided. Arlind, who participated to the construction of this repo, is on BDA, in the BDA booth, generative AI and data. Pay him a visit. He normally wears a green jacket at AWS. Very cool guy. And this Jupyter Notebook is very easy to start with. Also, we invite you to redeem your 7 days trial for AWS Skill Builder. You will learn a lot, AI and other topics on cloud and AWS. And finally, please just get in touch with us. Here our LinkedIn profile.
Yep.
And we are approachable all day and even more. And if you can fill up the survey, it will be our pleasure to know a bit how we could convey this message today. Thank you very much. And good appetit.
Thank you.
Bye now.